Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this talk. My name is Xavier. I'm the one who tried to organize all those AI talks, and I'm a research common member room of this college, and I also work with Ella at the AI Competency Centre. And I've been working with Ella for about 3 years, and before that, we were both working for the Center for Teaching and Learning at the university. So today, the way it's going to work, basically, Ella is going to talk for 45 minutes. And then after that, there will be about 15 minutes or a bit more for Q&As. Okay? So Ella will now come on board, and then over to you, Ella.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everybody. So like Zav said, I'm Ella. I work at the AI Competency Centre at Oxford currently as our content officer. And I'm going to talk to you today about building confidence with AI. I'm going to do that mostly through my lens and my experience with AI, mostly because I don't know how to talk about anybody else's. So what you can expect from today, I'm going to give you a very brief overview of AI at Oxford, tell you who I am, and then tell you my approach to AI. We're going to talk about how that works in terms of learning and innovating with AI, building and producing with AI. I'm going to show you what that looks like in practice for me, and then leave you with a few final thoughts. So we can start today with a little bit of AI at Oxford. So generative AI is the fastest growing technology, full stop, end of sentence. ChatGPT currently has around 800 million weekly users, and that's 2 years after it came into existence. So for reference, the internet took 15 years to reach that milestone. So when we talk about AI, we know that everybody is using it, or a lot of people are using it. It's everywhere. And so at Oxford, something needed to kind of be done about it. So last year in June 2024, the year before, oh my goodness, the year before in 2024, a ChatGPT pilot was run here at the university. And this took 750 staff from across the collegiate university and gave them ChatGPT Edu for a year. And the staff reported that they saved time, effort, and energy by using ChatGPT. And they put that time, effort, and energy back into having a better work-life balance. And they were able to finish work on time when they weren't previously. And that gave them time for professional development. In short, what they used ChatGPT for was making time for what mattered to them. And so now at Oxford, since September, we've rolled out ChatGPT Edu to all staff and students, along with Google Gemini and other Google AI tools. And I now work at the AI Competency Centre supporting these tools at Oxford. So who am I? I'm Ella. So I'm currently the content officer at the AI Competency Centre, as I've said a few times. But in June 2024, I wasn't. I was the office manager and EI to the director at the Centre for Teaching and Learning. And that was when I got to be part of the ChatGPT pilot. That was my first encounter with AI and the first time I started using it. And my background is not in this kind of thing at all. I actually trained as a model maker, and I worked as a specialist costume and puppet maker in film for a while, before managing a paint-your-own pottery studio before coming to the university. So I come from a distinctly non-technical background. And I got onto the ChatGPT Edu pilot not that long after I started my role here at the university. So I was very much learning how to do my role, how to do my job, at the same time as learning how to use AI. And it was my first office job. I'd worked in a lot of workshops, a lot of studios, and this was the first time that anyone had been like, you need to write lots of emails. It was a little different. And I think it gave me a very non-traditional approach to AI. So in my job, in basically every job that I've ever had and the way I approach life, I have one rule that kind of influences the way I approach everything. It's very simple. I want to enjoy myself. And that might sound kind of flippant and a little bit hedonistic, but it is kind of what I want out of work. I'll break that down a bit later so you don't think I'm a horrible person. But for me, this is how I approach literally every task I want to do. I want to enjoy my job. That's how I get the most out of it. And I found that when I was using ChatGPT, it massively supported me in doing that. And I don't want to make it sound like this is the only tool that you can use. Like, here are some of the tools that I use regularly in my day-to-day work now. ChatGPT was my gateway to them. I don't think I would have encountered them or started using them if I hadn't have had my introduction through ChatGPT. But I now use them all very, very regularly. And I want to convey an approach now that you can use with basically every generative AI tool. But mostly today, I'm going to be talking about these 5. So what is my approach? I have a very personal approach to AI. So if we talk about ChatGPT for a second, when you open ChatGPT, you get this big, what can I help with, Ella? Apart from yours probably doesn't say Ella. And then it says, ask anything. I think this is awful. Ask anything is dreadful. I get total decision paralysis when I see that. I don't know what to put. Like, what should it do? What could it do? What can it do? So I've compiled for you a very helpful list of some of the things that it can do. Yeah, there's a lot. And there's a lot more than that. These were the top 70 of the list that ChatGPT generated for me. It was a very, very long list. And I could stand here for literally this whole session and tell you things that you could use this for. And that would not be particularly useful. It's great to see what people are doing with these tools, but that doesn't tell you how you can use them and the ways in which you can approach them. So I think this question is totally wrong. You don't need to ask, what can AI do for you? But what do you want it to do? So for me, what I wanted was to enjoy myself. And so this is what I wanted out of work. And I'm going to break this down now a little bit more. And so that was figuring out where the value was in my work. When I want to enjoy myself, I want to feel like the things I do matter. And where I'm spending my time is doing good stuff that I want to do and that I'm getting things out of it. And so how do I enjoy myself? I need to make sure that my work has meaning and creates value. And when I say, where does my work create value? I need to break that down a little bit. So where is the value in what I am doing? Sometimes the value is in doing the things I am doing. If I'm learning something, or if I'm innovating or producing, generating new ideas in my head or exploring something, the value is in me doing the thing. And I need to keep my brain working and everything moving in there. But sometimes the value is not there at all. Sometimes the value is in the end result. The thing that I am making, I just want it to happen and exist. And I don't particularly want to do it. And in places like that, I want to remove all friction, mental or otherwise. I just want it to pop into existence. And sometimes that can happen. I can use tools to help me make sure that the value I'm getting out of what I'm doing sits where I want it to be. And with this in mind, the way I use AI now in my current life is I'm using it to push my knowledge and experience to things and places that I never thought I could see or do or know. I'm building things I never would have had access to or even known that I could possibly build. And I'm developing automations and scaffolds and giving myself support for the things that I don't want to do, that are going to use my energy for things that I don't particularly want to be doing or feel like I'm adding value to. And I think working out what you want, this is the secret to doing it all, right? If you can articulate what you want to yourself, you can articulate it to AI. And if you can articulate it to AI, you're significantly more likely to get a good response. And you're very likely to know when something isn't right. And when I say know what you want, this is totally unique to you. You might not be like, I want to enjoy myself through everything. That might just be a me thing. But it's also very, very personal. You could have someone who's doing the same job as you, in the same organization, doing the same tasks every day at the same time, and your approach to your work is going to be radically different. The things you enjoy, the things you take out of it, are going to be different. So what you want is going to be different. You are the expert in the things that you're working on, how you work, and what you like. And if this is sounding really selfish, good. It is. These tools are personal productivity tools. So if you can find where you personally want to be productive and use them for that, you're going to have a great time. So it's time to self-reflect. And I'm aware that this sounds really kind of hippie and you're standing there going, this girl did go to art school, you're right. This is actually probably the most important thing. You can ask yourself questions to find out what you want, and you can extract that from yourself and then know how you're approaching the tools you're using in an informed way. So ask yourself, what do you like? What kind of things do you enjoy? What are you best at? What do you take real pride in? And what do you want to do more of? Where do you want this thing to give you time to help you do more? And what drains you? What do you hate? There's something in, I think, everybody's job where you're like, I would be so happy if I never had to do that again. Find that and make it so you have to do as little of it as possible. And think wider. Think about learning and growth. What are the kind of things that you wish you could do? The things you wish you knew? The things that you've never been given the opportunity to explore or never been given the support to do? And think about what you're aiming for. And this can be something ridiculous, outlandish, something you've never even thought of. You could be a model maker and go, I really wish I worked in higher education. And you can make that happen with the right support. If you aim yourself in the right direction and go, what do I need to do more of to get there? You get there. And all of this sums up to where is your time best spent. And if you can work that out, you can focus on spending your time there and making sure you're not wasting your time. So what do you want? And key, how can AI support that? So this isn't just a self-help talk. And I want to make it clear that this is an active process, right? You're not just going to do this once. The way I approach every single day, every single task I do, is to say, how can I do this better? Is this the way I want to be doing this? Is this a good use of my time? Where am I spending my time and where do I want to be spending it? And I ideate consistently. I make sure that I'm always approaching everything with fresh eyes and working out if it's the right thing to do and if I'm getting the support I need to do it. And key to all of this, you decide. You decide where you're using these tools. I'm always really conscious that I want to keep things to myself. I want to keep my own ownership of my ideas. I want to keep my learning to myself. And there are times where I don't want something to take that from me, so I'm not going to let it. So we're going to talk about ways that you might want to use AI kind of strategically. Kind of think about maybe deliberate use and not use of AI. And one of those, I think, is learning and innovating. And these are the tasks where the value in them is what you're doing. So where I'm spending my time is in using my brain, in making sure those muscles are as utilized as possible so that I can learn and grow and know my ideas are my own. And so if you're learning with AI, it's really, really key to keep the cognitive friction there, keep your brain going. And so think to yourself, why am I learning and how am I learning? Are you gaining skills? If you're trying to do a task or learn how to do something, don't let anything else do it for you because you're not going to learn anything. You say, I need to do this myself to get the most out of it, so do it yourself. And are you gaining understanding? AI is brilliant at telling you the answer to things, but you're not really going to learn it or remember it. You need to be engaging with the material that you have to know that you actually gained that understanding. Or are you gaining insight? If you let AI interrogate and summarize all of the sources, it can interpret that and give you a perfect solution, but you have not understood the context of that at all. You haven't gained any insight. You've just read a line and gone, yeah. So don't let it, do it yourself. And there are tools that companies have created to support learning with AI. So one of those that I really like is Notebook LM. So this is Notebook LM. You can see all of my sources are on the left-hand side. You can find and upload sources with this tool and then interrogate them within this structure. So you can say, here are 20 gazillion files about the structure of Oxford University. I think it might be a little complicated. Can you explain it to me? And then it can summarize and route you back to the sources that it's come from. You can see it's got little citations at the end of every line and you can go, where did that come from? Let me investigate that further, that's interesting. And then on the side, you can engage with these sources in different ways, in mind maps, podcasts, videos, slides, quizzes. And so if you know that you engage with information best visually, brilliant, you can make an infographic and then you can work with it. If you want to be quizzed on information, great. Make a quiz, make flashcards. You can engage with information in heaps of ways with this tool. But I don't think it replaces reading all of the sources. It's not the same thing. This is a very useful way to engage with the information, but you need to know that if you want to read all those sources, if you want to know all of that knowledge, do it yourself and use this to support. And then there's other tools like guided learning. So this is guided learning in Gemini. Google created this alongside pedagogical experts, otherwise known as teachers, I think. And so this uses Socratic questioning to walk you through topics. And so it's not going to just give you the answer. It's going to give you a route through. It's going to ask you questions and prompt you through information to make sure you're engaging with it. But again, these are kind of example tools. You might be like, but none of these are quite right for my use case. So you might want to just use your kind of go-to AI tool, but do it carefully and strategically and know what you're asking and know what you're getting out of it. Or you might go, I don't think I want to use AI at all for this. I think this is best if I do it. And that's totally fine as well. So when you're innovating with AI, this is another place where you might want to use kind of slightly more intentional, strategic, deliberate use of AI. And for this, you want to amplify your ideas. You don't want them to become somebody else's. You want to keep them for yourself and make sure they're as strong as possible. So you can ask yourself, what stage am I at? It's not really, can AI help here? It's what role should it be playing? And so when you're ideating, AI is brilliant to bring outside perspectives. You can really get a wider perspective, a broader landscape using AI tools, but you don't want it to originate your idea. You don't want to say, oh, what a great idea that I thought of. And then you go, oh, actually, ChatGPT thought of it. I was just there at the time. And when you're developing ideas, AI is phenomenal to criticize, to critique, to challenge, to find weaknesses, to find your strengths, and for you to really assess your ideas and make sure they're the strongest they can be. And then when you're testing, AI is phenomenal to stress test an idea, to really push it to its limits. But you don't ever want it to reformulate or rewrite that idea for you if you want to keep ownership of that. And so you can look at how AI can expand your viewpoint. You can say, give me alternate perspectives, challenge my viewpoint, but don't rewrite this. Don't do anything to my idea. Just tell me what I'm not thinking about here. Or you might use AI critiques. You might say, don't replace this, don't rewrite it, but give me 5 weaknesses, give me 5 strengths, and then explain them, and then continue that conversation. Really interrogate the answers you get so you can really use AI to push your concepts as far as they possibly can. And then you can use AI to test things out. You can get it to act in certain roles. So if you've got a business idea and you might be at the stage of talking to investors, you can get AI to act as an investor and help run through the conversations you might be having so you feel like you're the most secure in your position and you know the kinds of things you're likely to be asked. And all of these things can help your ideas grow significantly stronger while they are staying your ideas. But key to all of this is you decide how much thinking you get to keep. You are the person who's in charge of all of these. And if you go, I want to keep thinking about this, I want to keep this in my head, then do. So now we're going to talk about some instances where you don't want anything in your head at all. When you're just building and producing with AI. So these are the kind of tasks where AI is, the value in a task is just the product. You just want to get it done. And the value in your time is not in doing the thing. You'd rather not do the thing. You just want the thing to exist over there. And this is all about building constant efficiency with AI, making things as efficient as you possibly can, and intentionally handing over work and saying, not for me, for you. And so you kind of know when this kind of thing's your goal, because you usually will already know what good looks like. You know what the outcome is to these, and the task is fully defined. You might say, this is what needs to happen, but I just wish I didn't have to do it. You don't want learning or authorship or to keep ownership of an idea in these spaces. You want them to be fast and consistent, and you don't want to have to spend your time or energy on them. The value here isn't in the doing, it's just in the execution. It just needs to be executed and done well. And this is where you take all of the shortcuts that you can get. So you can use things like Copilot in Microsoft Forms, where you just go, make a form. I really don't want to think about all of the questions and branching and question types, and I don't want to click through it. Make it, and it'll do it. Or you can use tools like Claude, the Claude plugin in Excel. It's brilliant. It can write formulas so well, extract things from data where you don't think that that's valuable to you. And that's the kind of thing that I don't think is valuable to me at all, but you might go, Ella, I really like interrogating data. That's a really valid part of my job, and I get a full understanding of what's happening when I do that, so do it. That's not a task that you want to give away, but I do, so I've put it on there. And you could use Claude Cowork, which I discovered embarrassingly recently. You can just set that thing at your computer and say, organize my downloads folder, and it's done. Oh my goodness, my downloads folder was a mess, and now it's not. And this is where you shouldn't be afraid to build. If you know what is going to make your job easier, then do it, then make that happen. So this is an example of something I did super duper recently. I was tasked with creating a term card for our department that needed to sit on our website, and it was just going to be a PDF, and I knew I had to update it really, really regularly as our AI consultants booked various talks and told us about them 5 minutes beforehand. And I knew that I could turn a CSV file into a PDF with generative AI, but not consistently. I needed this thing to have the same formatting, have the same logo. I didn't want to spend a really long time prompting something, and I needed it to be fast. So I went to Google AI Studio and said, make something that'll take this CSV and turn it into the PDF that I want. And I'd like to say bam, but it took me a really long time of arguing with Google AI Studio. I think it took me less time than if I'd have formatted the PDF myself, but I know it took me less time than formatting the PDF 25 times. So I created this thing in Google AI Studio. But the video is not playing. Please hold. There we go. And you can upload a CSV to it, and it'll give you some filters, and then you can extract a fully paginated, logoed PDF that can just sit on our website. So I just built it. I knew the thing that I needed to happen was turn this CSV into this PDF. And so I built something that could just do that for me. I'm keeping my intent there, but I'm just handing the execution over to something else. If you know what good looks like and the kind of thing you're aiming for, you can build and shape the tools that you use in the middle so you can get to the outcome better and significantly faster. So if we go back to me for a second, which is my favorite thing to talk about, at this stage in my AI journey, I'm on the ChatGPT pilot, it's just about to end, and I got a new job. And it's the job that I'm currently in, and I love it. But what usually happens when you get a new job is you have to leave an old job. And something that I was tasked with when I left my old job was I had to create a handover. Now, to do this handover and to do it well, I needed to document all of my processes. This was significantly easier said than done because the role was new when I came into it, and I'd made a lot of processes, and I'd written very little down. So I had a lot to document, and I wanted to create comprehensive standard operating procedures for every single process that I was a part of. And I needed them to be approved by my team. I needed them to be fit for purpose. So they needed to be easy to understand, easy to access, and easy to update. Simple, right? So I had 2 weeks to do it. And I also had to do the rest of my job around it. So I thought to myself, what do I want from this whole process? What I want here is to give my team the best handover possible. And I want to do it with the least time and effort I possibly can, because I don't have time. And if I'm honest, my brain is in my new job and I don't want to think about all of the processes that I'm not going to have to do. So what I did was I used AI to support every single stage of this. So I'm going to go through every stage that I did and tell you what I did, how I used AI, and how it helped. So stage 1 was planning. I needed to plan my approach to all this and work out what kind of handover I was going to do. And what did I want from this? I wanted to be really, really confident that what I was going to do was going to be the most efficient, effective way of doing this. I needed to know that I was going to spend the least amount of time and the least effort on this with the best result. So the way I approached this was I had an initial plan in my head, but I set that aside for a second. And I asked ChatGPT, what would you do? Here are the tools I have access to. Here is the time I have access to. Here's my context. Here's my constraints. What would you do? And it gave me a plan, and it was quite different to mine. So I asked it why. I probed it for strengths and weaknesses. I told it the parts of its plan that I didn't think were very good. And we had a fight about it. And then I gave it my plan. And I said, here's what I thought I was going to do. Can you tell me why I'm wrong? Can you find every potential weakness in this and prod it as hard as you possibly can? And we did this for a while. We really kind of engaged in critiquing my work, its plan, until I ended up with something that was the plan, mostly mine, some ChatGPTs, that I was confident was the best plan possible. And this was brilliant. AI suggested things that I had never thought of before, even within the remit of my own role, things that had never occurred to me. But it also validated my assumptions. There were things that I'd written down on my plan that I was kind of going, I think that's the way to do it, but I'm not quite sure. And after doing this and kind of having to defend them, I was sure. I knew that my ideas were the best that they were going to be. And where there was friction, where our kind of plans diverged, I was able to fully critically engage with that until I knew that what I had was the best. I was confident that this was the best plan that I was going to get. And this was the start of collaborating with AI through this process. So step one in my absolutely infallible, amazing plan was to create standard operating procedure. I needed consistent standard operating procedure. I needed a template that I could use across all of the processes that I did. And I needed to make sure that it wasn't overly complex, but it was also really clear and easy to understand. Then I needed to fill all my templates in with all of the information that was in my head in a really easy to understand, easy to read format that was completely complete, that didn't have any missing information, had links all the way through. And what I wanted from that was to get all of the information out of my head as fast and as painlessly as possible. I didn't want to have to worry about the admin or the structure or the templating. I just wanted to be like, yeah, and it would be there. So the way I approached this initially was I said, Gemini, make me a template. And it did. And it took a little bit of iterating to make sure I got it right. But I ended up with a standard operating procedure template that would work with all of my processes. And I didn't write any of it. And then I would upload my standard operating procedure template back into Gemini and say, help me fill this in, but for this process. And then I would just do a brain dump of everything I knew about the process I was talking about. Not structured, just everything in my brain dictated at ChatGPT, Gemini, all in one go. And I would throw in the notes that I had if I had any notes, the links that I had if I had any links. And then I would say, ask me questions until you are confident that this is filled out to completion. Prompt me in filling this in. Like, I don't care if you ask me things that don't exist, just ask me them anyway. Make sure this is full and complete and not missing anything and has links throughout. So I wasn't the only one prompting here. I was being prompted by AI. And this was brilliant. It meant that my documentation was consistent across the board and incredibly complete. And it reduced cognitive load massively. I know that if I'd have filled this out myself, if I'd have done this just me, I would be standing over my keyboard for ages going, what do I do? What's my job again? I no idea. But this just kind of pulled it out of my brain, kind of without stress, without tension. And I was confident that they were reasonably complete. So the next section of my plan was making sure these documents were fit for purpose for my team. Now, what I wanted from this process was just to understand where my team were at. I didn't really want to have to deal with the admin. I wanted all of my mental energy to go on understanding their position and what they needed. And so to get team feedback, I had meetings with my new role holder. I had the benefit of a nice long overlap period with her, so I was able to have long meetings with her. And we spoke through the standard operating procedure documentation that I had. I really wanted to understand where she saw gaps that I hadn't, and the things that she was apprehensive about that she didn't feel were properly documented. And I could really focus on those conversations and those conversations alone. We recorded and transcribed those meetings, and I used AI to summarize them and create actions from them. And then I uploaded those summaries and action items back into Gemini and said, adjust the standard operating procedure based on everything we talked about. And AI massively helped in this because I found that the efficiency in translating these conversations into formal documentation was like incredible. If I'd have done it, it would have taken me like hours, I'm sure, to write everything down and then to turn it into action items and then go through all of my processes and make sure I'd made every single change. And it did. It made every single change and I could track it through in a way that I'm sure I would have missed them. But I also know that I would have been spending my time and energy on thinking about the admin and not thinking about my team. So the last stage of this was creating what we called Robot Ella. What I wanted this to be was an easy to access, update and understand database of all the standard operating procedures. And what I wanted was really simple out of this. I hate standard operating procedures. Like when you start a job and they're like, here's 3,000 pages of this job. I find that impossible and I don't know how anybody does it. So I wanted this to be as easy to use as possible and something my team would actually look at. So we used a tool that we have seen before, NotebookLM. We uploaded all of my standard operating procedure on the left-hand side. We set its tone of voice to be a friendly office manager. And I hope I'm friendly at least. And then my team could ask it questions in natural language, ask it, what are my duties for this? What do I do in this situation? And it would pull out information and then reference the standard operating procedure. They could go back and look at it and work out exactly what this was. And this was so much better than a non-AI tool would have been here. The information was totally navigable by natural language. You could just ask a question and your answer would pop out almost immediately. But you were also able to work out what wasn't there. Like, I find standard operating procedure hard because when you get to a process that you don't know if it's documented, that's really hard to find out. You've got to read it all to know that it's not in there. But if you ask Robot Ella and she doesn't tell you, it's because she doesn't know. It's because it's not there. And you can update these sources really, really easily. Robot Ella was significantly better than a folder of standard operating procedure ever would be. So my whole handover process, I thought went well. Just to remind you, the things that I wanted out of it, I wanted to give the best handover possible with the least time and effort spent. So this whole process took cumulatively less than 1 working day. We spread it out so I didn't go insane, but it was less than 8 hours of work. And it took so much effort than if I would have done it manually. I know that if I'd have done this just by myself, typewriter in hand, it would have taken me so much of my mental energy. It would have been my full brain for the entire amount of time that I had left at work. And I used it towards the end of my role. And I realized pretty quickly that most days it knew significantly more about my role than I did. It would remind me of things that were just not in my head anymore. And it's still used really, really regularly by my team. So I think really I massively succeeded in what I wanted from this. So I'm going to leave you with a few final thoughts now. I knew that I would talk at the speed of light, and I absolutely have, so I'm sorry that I've gone far under time. So when we think about ChatGPT and its 800 million weekly users, how many of these people do we think are using AI to make time for what matters to them? Because really, you can. If you know where you want support, you just put it in those places. These are tools that you have access to. And if you know where you want to put them there. So in terms of all of my other tools, all of the different tools that I use so regularly, these are the same guys. They're different interfaces, but you can use the same approach for all of them. They're not new. If you want to learn how to use them, my top tip is play, have fun, enjoy. These are here to make your life better and easier. So find out if they can do that. Usually you can just ask them and they'll tell you. And if they don't, if you go, this isn't particularly enjoyable, I don't particularly love this, then turn it off, put it down, do it yourself. If that's the way you're going to get most joy out of this, then do it. So my top secret to being confident with AI is when you see that big bar that says, ask me anything, you've just got to know what to ask. And in order to know what to ask, you've just got to know what you want. So thank you. That was everything that I had to say. And I'll open the floor for questions. I hope you have lots.